Hello all you druids and bards. Welcome back to the Armed and Dangerous podcast. I'm so glad you're here and taking a little time to hang out and listen. Today's episode is all about something that doesn't get talked about enough. The pressure to be good at Dungeons and Dragons. And why that pressure is total nonsense. Because here's the truth. You don't need to memorise the rulebook, create the perfect character, or tell a cinematic masterpiece to belong at the table. D&D is for everyone. It's messy, collaborative, creative, and just straight up fun. And it gets better when we stop worrying about playing it perfectly. So, let's roll. Alright, welcome back to Armed and Dangerous, everybody. We are happy to have you with us on the show. This is episode 2, and today we're going to be talking about how D&D is for everybody. One thing we'd like to say is thank you everyone so much for the love and support that we've seen so far on our YouTube, Spotify, Instagram. Like, we are just absolutely blown away just by all of you who've commented on our stuff. We love it, and this community is just exactly why we have decided to do this podcast, and we want to continue to contribute to that. So stay tuned, because we got a lot more fun stuff coming.
Yeah, it's been awesome watching the memes and stuff kind of take off and people comment on them. And also, we don't want to forget that we have a special guest tonight, mentioned in the first episode, our good friend Andrew, who has shown up to talk with us. The original DM for both of us, and now a player in our campaign currently that I'm DMing. So we've gone full circle with the podcast at this point. And we're only in episode 2. So here we go. Andrew, do you have anything to say about yourself?
Thanks for having me on. This is awesome.
Man, I'm excited.
And I liked the first episode. It was sick.
Thank you.
Anything I want to say about myself? No, what you said is honestly crazy. We've come just full circle. Like,
full circle.
We've gone from me being a very new, kind of newish intermediate DM running campaigns for you guys, and now I've gotten to see you get to be like expert level, and now you're DMing for me. It's awesome. Luckily I have a job that I can, I work from home, so like I can take time to plan for it and stuff. And unfortunately, you didn't have that luxury. I mean, you were so busy like working and trying to figure out what you were going to do with your life, because we were so young, man, when we first started playing D&D. Like, just thinking back how long ago that was at this point. And I was thinking back, like, kind of my first session with you, we had Josh, and I think we were doing the Waterdeep Dragon Heist. I think that sounds correct.
Yeah. And I know we didn't, as a player group, we did not allow you to follow the story. I just remember you having the book open, and you would like look at an NPC or something that was coming up, and instantly we'd be like, yeah, we want to tie him up and throw him in the docks. Like, you just had no opportunity to ever be like, well, the next quest is, because we would just choose our next quest. It was so just chaos ridden. Yeah, it was good though. I mean, it was a great first lesson.
I was just going to ask Josh, coming into it, like having that be your first session, that must have been just a circus to watch.
I mean, it was like all things beautifully D&D, chaotic, with a little bit of story in there. But, I think you bringing me in as a new player, you did such a good job of just tying me into right where all the other players were at. And it was just tons of fun. And that's what I remember from that night. It was so much fun, and getting to just riff off everybody else, and being introduced to the game by you. You did a great job as a DM, and yeah, that's what got me hooked for sure.
So that's kind of what I want to talk about tonight. I know our last episode we talked about Josh and kind of just your first time at a table and what that meant to you, and we talked a lot about Andrew and him being our DM. So for me, I'll go this time, because I didn't talk about it super in depth last time, but I know with Andrew being here now, it kind of makes it more applicable, I guess, for me, because I was playing before you even joined into D&D, Josh. So I remember Andrew would be sitting at the table, like prepping for his sessions or whatever, like so super intently, like just like, I'd be cooking dinner or something, and he's over here just nose into his book. And we had, how many players did we have, man? Probably like 6. It was a big party.
I think
that's
5.
A good size.
Yeah, I think
6 like on a good night, 5
The
like
biggest-
regularly.
Yeah, I would say we were doing a group of about 19 every night. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, it felt like that.
We
though.
run out of
It was
tables to pull to the table or chairs to pull to the table.
Yeah.
Just
No, you
nothing.
get to about 7 people, and it does start to
it's
feel
chaos.
like 20.
Yeah, it's chaos.
No, it was so fun. Yeah, I think we had the story you're referring to about Dragon Heist. Yeah, I think we were playing with 7 people.
Yeah, which is bonkers. And
That's a lot.
especially
It feels like a
especially
lot.
when you don't have like super dedicated time to plan a story. You know, you're kind of just reading from this module and hoping that these players want to follow it to some degree. And I just remember we were so opposite of that. Like it was just like the most murder hobo group, but then there were like 2 or 3 of us, not me not being one of them, that like were more role play, but I was so scared of role play when I first started because I just didn't understand anything. So I think, Andrew, kind of a question for you, since tonight I kind of want to talk about like what does it mean to be a new player? What are some like expectations we come into D&D when we first start playing? What's like maybe the scariest thing approaching a new table as a player that, and I can pose this to either of you, but like what's a scary thing that like coming into this, maybe a hesitancy you had, or maybe something you thought you knew about playing, but that was quickly changed once you saw others do it? I don't know. We can kind of riff on that for a second.
No, yeah, that's a good question. I think that, man, there's so many. Because I'm trying to remember. I started playing D&D. I think the first time I played, I was probably maybe 17 or 18, something like that.
Which is
And
about the time I met you,
came-
right?
Yeah. That sounds about
That's
right.
about how old you were when we met. you.
Yeah, wee little lad. And I remember that I think the first games of D&D, I didn't really understand how it worked because, like you're saying, coming into it, it can be really intimidating.
Super.
There's so much material. You find out that it's been around for decades at this point.
Yeah.
So there's so much history and so much lore, and the people who are into it, and that's great. That's awesome. But just like any other community that can be like that, it can be intimidating because you think, oh, I just want to have fun, and I mean, let's be honest, it's just like grown up make believe, right?
Yeah.
So
Adults playing pretend. Yeah.
like it's no different than kids playing, cops and robbers or something, but we're just playing like, rogue and your wizard,
Yeah.
But it's so coming into it, I didn't really know any rules. I didn't really have any rules. All I had was myself and a friend who were interested in it, and we just started with doing as silly as it sounds, just like straight up role play. Like we would make characters, him and I and some other friends, and we would just start saying, okay, maybe we'd be at work and we'd be bored and it would be really slow, and we'd say, okay, I'm so and so, I'm the, and at the time it wasn't even necessarily just fantasy RPG. It would be something like, okay, I'm an assassin cyborg, and I want to do this, and my other friend would be like, okay, well, you're walking down the street, and, we would almost take turns being the game master for each other, and
Well, that's a cool concept.
Yeah.
I think I got really into it, and I really enjoyed D&D, and I'm sure we'll talk about this in depth later because, Josh, I know you have a similar background with, loving acting and theater and stuff like that, but I came from doing theater for most of my life, and I did it in college a little bit, and then I stopped going to college, but I did theater in college, and I done theater by that point for probably 10 years. So I just loved being characters.
Yeah.
I loved acting, and I just started doing that with my friends, and that's really how we got started before I ever even knew what D&D was almost.
So that's awesome. I'm sure there's a lot of people that enjoy theater and improv and stuff that end up in this world. I'm kind of the opposite of that. I was terrified of being in theater. Like I played in bands and stuff in high school, but that was, I was a guitar player. I was kind of in the back. I was never the front or anything. So I think, especially coming into the DM role, was very intimidating to me because I'm like, cool. Like, 4 or 5 people are about to entrust 5 hours of their life with me when we have so many other things going on in our world, and they're entrusting that time with me to make it fun and to make it engaging and to continue a story. I mean, for potentially years. How long did we play? I mean, our most recent session, our most recent campaign, I guess we did the Lost Mines of Fendelver because we had 2 brand new players, and I think Andrew and Josh, you've both done that with me at least twice to some degree. And I know we talked about that last episode,
Twice,
but we ran that because it was a simple campaign, but having 2 new players, 2 seasoned players, and then kind of hoping that those new players vibe with it, enjoy it. Like I would show up Friday nights just nervous, so nervous that I couldn't deliver, or maybe the story would, get flat or stale. And I think, Andrew, you kind of set the stage, to be honest, for our enjoyment of D&D because you taught me to DM in the creative mindset and not necessarily the rules-based number mindset. So I learned from you that the acting and the improv and the goofy NPCs and the, talking back to the players as that NPC was so crucial to DMing and Dungeons and Dragons that if you don't have that, it does kind of fall flat. And I'm not saying that the rules aren't important. Like, we love rolling dice and following the book and like spells and all that stuff because that's what makes it engaging and makes it risky and chaotic. But to your credit, Andrew, I think you having that theater background and kind of that energy gave us the ability to be creative even now in our current campaign. So no, I super dig that. I think that I love to hear people's backgrounds and how they ended up playing, and especially if they're like committed to a full campaign. And what that really transpired. Like even today, we had a cool comment. We posted on Instagram, kind of asking people what their first character was, and then what their second character was. And one guy was like, "I played as a paladin," and I was like, "Well, what was your second character?" And he's like, "I played as a druid." And I said, "Well, did you have more fun as the druid?" And he was like, "Yes." He's like, "I got to be an owl bear. I got to use magic." And I think that that's the part that like you get to that theater part. You get to role play. You get to be crazy. That's the good stuff.
Well, and that's what I think I learned from my first session with you, Andrew, was that, we're playing through a story. This isn't just a game, but this is a almost like a movie. This is a fully open world video game where I get to make the choices, and that's what really got me hooked. And it was really that role play portion that I think really got me into it. And yeah, it was so much fun just being able to be that character and interact with everyone else's character. And I think that's something that draws a lot of people to D&D is that, we get to be the heroes that we see in our favorite movies. We get to be those characters that we read about in our favorite books. D&D is the perfect landscape for you to, role play whoever that character is. And, I think if you're the type of DM where you kind of allow for some of those more artistic abilities, I think it, becomes a lot of fun for people. And, it's something that people really latch on to because of that.
Yeah. So taking that thought and kind of moving into another question here, and this is kind of like new player friendly. That's where we kind of want to focus with this talk tonight. It's just like how are new players able to like ingrain themselves into a campaign? What does that look like for new DMs? What does it look like for new players? I think a lot of times, and this may be a hot take, so if this offends somebody, I'm sorry, but I think a lot of times the interwebs and the social medias are constantly telling us how we're not playing our games right. And sometimes I'm just like, you just play the game. Like you just sit down with some of your good buddies and play a game, or complete strangers and play the game. And I think that
it's supposed to be fun.
Yeah, and it's supposed to be fun. And I think I get frustrated. It's like 10 steps to be the best DM you've ever been. And I'm like, well, maybe you just need to read a cool campaign to your friends and see what happens. You know, like there's no right way to really do it. I mean, I will say there could be some potentially very wrong ways if you're like, the goblin walked out of the tavern. You know, what do you do? Like that's a little boring, you know. like okay, maybe you need some tips at that point. But like most people have the charisma, and if you're already into fantasy, you're probably somewhat of a charismatic human to some degree. You know, I mean, you're watching the most charismatic characters you could imagine. You know, so I guess I kind of in that charisma, like jumping out, kind of off your cliff, if you will, being bold. How long did it take, and this can be for either of you, but how long did it take before you stopped caring about doing it wrong?
To be honest, that kind of goes back to your first question, which is because I was already starting off, you know, quote unquote, on the wrong foot. Like I was already doing D&D wrong the first session, you know, by myself with my friends. We were already doing it wrong. So from there, it was like I didn't know anything else besides homebrew. I couldn't, at the time, you know, I couldn't drop $50 on a DM book. I couldn't do this. I couldn't do that. But I was a very, and now, luckily, wow, there's so many free resources. It's super easy.
Yeah, it's awesome.
But, you know, when I was in...
Crazy.
Yeah. So now that's much easier. But at the time, back in my day, it was hard to get... You know, it was expensive, and I was a college kid living off of Jimmy John's, you know?
Yeah.
And so I kind of came into it with this already homebrew mindset, and if I can kind of get sentimental, because D&D does hold a special place in my heart, it's
for sure. Quite
literally, it's pure creativity. If you want to, I mean, the books and all of that, I promise I'm answering your question. I'm getting it. It might take me a second.
This is all good.
Starting from a point of, okay, I'm gonna do this myself, quote unquote. You kind of throw the rules out the window. I didn't even have the opportunity to care because I wasn't afforded the ability to. I was like, all right, well, you know, I'm gonna do it my way if I want to play. You know, me and my friends are gonna get together and do it. And so we did, and it started off really, really bad. I was a horrible DM. And what I wanted to do was you know, I've always been, I love the arts, as you guys do. You know, you guys are both very artistic. That's why we all get along. And I felt the pull when you start for people who start playing D&D, you know that pull that you feel after your first couple sessions where you're like, what is this?
Yeah.
What is that? What's happening to me right now? Because it is quite literally that raw creativity, and not to get whatever, but we grow up and we lose time for play.
Yeah.
And it is feeding that play. And it's you're getting together with your friends. It's no different than you would when you were kids. You'd go out to the woods, you'd pick up sticks, and you'd hit each other, and you'd be, you know, one of you would be the orc, and the other one would be the elf. And then sometimes suddenly you'd switch, and, you know, who knows? But what it was is just, it is a shared, D&D is a shared exercise in imagination.
Yeah.
And when you start playing with each other, and you can find people that you just have really good friendship chemistry with, or just synergy with in general, because sometimes you find the funniest relationships at the table with people you never would have thought you would have a friendship with, but somehow in game it's fantastic, and then somehow a real friendship may blossom out of that. You know, it's the craziest thing. So the rules, I mean, pardon my French, but the rules, man, because it's
I love it.
What you know, and the first thing you'll see too, you know, you'll see in the player's handbook and the DM guide, and unless they took it out, but I highly doubt it.
No, I think it still
says,
there.
You know, these are basically, it's the Pirates of the Caribbean quote, right? They're more like guidelines. You know, that's what it is. It's you know, it's not. They are guidelines, and they are meant to be taken outside of the realm of possibility, because again, it's about imagination.
It's fantasy,
and I will say. I will say, you guys, getting to DM you guys, as a DM, you, and Corey, I'm sure you notice this now too, you kind of get an eye for people out in the real world that you'd be like, oh, you'd be a good D&D player. And I saw that with you guys immediately.
All the time. Yeah, that's good. So to answer the question, what I'm hearing you say is that doing it wrong might be a key to success to some degree. Because I love
100%.
I love that you said you started off with literally no knowledge of it, and you guys just kind of played. And what more freedom in a game of the imagination than that? You know, the idea that you wholly were just like, well, I can't afford any of those books. You know, I'll get what I can off the internet or, you know, from other people's knowledge, but we want to play, so we're going to play. So I think that's encouraging to anybody that, you know, may be out there hesitant to jump in or scared that, you know, what if I don't get it? Maybe even for a blooming DM out there, like, well, I don't understand. Well, you know what? Maybe you don't need to. That might be the fun of it. You know?
There's no right way. There's wrong ways to DM for sure, but there's no right way.
Josh, did you have a moment where you stopped caring about doing it wrong? I say air quotes now because do we even know what doing it wrong is anymore due to Andrew's?
I feel like my first session was such like a unicorn session because I came into it blind.
Yeah.
You know, I had a random character I'd made up on the fly, and you know, sitting down with the other players at the table, like I just fed off of their energy and I just fed off of their creativity. And you know, these are people I don't know. Mm-hmm. You and Corey were the only two people that I knew, but at the end of that session, I felt like I was friends with everybody at the table.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I think we just fed off of that creative energy that we had with each other. And so, you know, during that session, I don't feel like I was doing, or I didn't feel like I had to do something right or did something wrong. I would say it wasn't until our next campaign, Corey, that I started feeling like that. Like, oh, I need to do something cool, or, you know, I might need to do something funny here. You know, I felt more pressure to, like, play the game, you know, in a sense. And I think for me, like it took a while. It took a few sessions until I really settled into just my character, but then also like, you know, like the session can just be the session. Whatever happens, like as long as we're sitting down and having fun, even if my character doesn't do something cool or say something funny, like if somebody else in our group does and we all have a really good laugh out of that, like that's enough for me. And that makes me feel like we had a good time.
And being able to riff off of that energy. You know, sometimes I think if you feel the pressure to do the right thing, you may even be stepping on the toes of newer players that maybe feel like they can't even speak up and say what they wanted to say. You know, because you have this like need to almost like, oh, no one else is saying anything, I gotta say something, you know, when in reality maybe maybe the silence is needed, you know, maybe you know, I need to back away and let someone else, because I mean it's been so cool to watch Evan, and Evan's character is Aberama Jack. He's a Haragon monk, in our current campaign, and he's got like this Scottish or Irish accent. Yeah,
that's Scottish.
Yeah, he talks just like that, and one of his like quirks is that he'll like say common phrases, but he'll say them wrong. And I mean, he's a brand new player. This is his first campaign ever, and we'll like have a small lull in the conversation, and Aberama will say one of these phrases, and we all lose it, you know. And it's like watching a new player kind of break out of their shell like that is the coolest moment for a DM, and I think other seasoned players to be like, dude, you get it, you know, you are there, like you're past worrying about doing it wrong, like you're playing D&D. Yeah. So.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a good segue, Josh, for this question. Do you ever feel pressure to role play or be funny at the table? And if so, how do you deal with that? And this can be for both of you.
Yeah, not now.
Not anymore.
I don't feel that pressure now. I'm fully settled into, and I think it's really based off who I want my character to be.
Yeah.
You know, Mert in our campaign right now, he's not the funny guy, you know. He's like kind of an awkward turtle. If
Mert's funny.
Mert's the
funny.
Mert's funny. So little backstory. Hold on, let me give a little backstory of Mert. Mert is Josh's character. He's a turtle wizard. Mert is from some seaside coastal town, but he spent a lot of time
he's from the islands.
He's from the islands, but he spent a lot of time in Waterdeep studying architecture and things like that, right? Because that's what turtles are kind of known for. And became a wizard, and he has no sense of sarcasm. So having a character like Aberama Jack that I just mentioned being very sarcastic, and then Mert will take things so literal that he'll actually act upon them, you know? So it's just watching you become that character, Josh, too, from Elric, who's very powerhouse, you know, strong arm, leader energy, to Mert, who has moments of shyness where he'll even go into his shell and like almost prevent the story from progressing, which is so cool. It's cool to watch that transition in that. And I think that kind of goes back into the question, like, you've almost pulled back from that need to be funny or hardcore role play in that sense to where you're actually being more natural, even so, because your character...
Right. And in those situations, you know, when another character is, you know, saying something or they're having a conversation with an NPC, you know, I am thinking, how would Mert react to this?
Yeah.
Like, what's Mert thinking right now? And, you know, so it's not like, oh, I have this funny line that I want to say right after they're done. It's more like, oh, Aberama, you know, said this off the wall phrase. Mert's going to take that super literally.
You know, playing D&D now, I would say probably not so much.
Yeah.
I think definitely, and I think now that I'm playing more than I'm DMing, because I haven't DM'd in, you know, however long. You've been fortunate enough to let me play with you, and man, it's been awesome. And fortunate enough, to let me play a changeling, which is a difficult character to manage when someone in your party is playing one. No, yeah, I don't feel. You know what I feel? I feel as nerdy as it sounds. I feel the need to do Flynn justice, the character.
I like that.
But that's just for me. That's
I like
me
that,
being
though.
dorky, you know. But something, you know, I think the episode is called Keeping It Casual, you know, for new players. And I would say that almost not, you know, I tend to play characters, at least in D&D, where I can kind of be a little bit of myself. They have a little bit of tidbit of my personality. And of course, every D&D, you know, it's going to be natural anyways. You can't take that out when you're acting as a person. But I try to do a little bit with every character. I think that if you find the right people to play with, I would say this to new players. If you find the right people to play with, there's almost no worry, right? Like Josh, when you came in, there was no one. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe there was anyone at the table that was super on your ass about the rules, or that was super, you know, things have to be this way, or you're playing wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah. They were just happy to have me, and like that felt so good as a new player. Just have other people just there who were just excited that a random character was joining the campaign, and you know, for a one shot, and just to see you know the craziness that was going to come from that. And I would say, as a new player, that feels great when you have people like.
Well, that's really what D&D is for. I would tell new people, if you're looking for a group, man, and you're getting bad vibes from it, whether it's from the people that are role playing, whether it's the, you know, that's fine. You may not jive with that group, and there's nothing wrong with bowing out, you know. By the same measure, Josh, you said something earlier that was super interesting. You said, you know, you walked away from that first session feeling like suddenly you had a bunch of friends. And it kind of comes back to, does it even matter if you know these people when you start? Because let's be honest, although we can't see it physically, I guess we can now with Tailspire and with certain, you know, setups and stuff like tabletop setups and stuff like that. But you're not, for all intents and purposes, you're not there when these things happen. But you were taking the physical time to be with people in a room to share your energy and your imagination. Those are real experiences. I don't care what anyone says. And so totally you came in and you broke out of a prison, man. And it was wacky and it was chaotic and it was funny.
So good.
And you're seeing how people, yes, it's a game, but you're seeing how people react in certain situations. And sure, it's not always going to be how they act in real life. Of course not. It's a game. You're supposed to have fun. But it's interesting to see, oh man, I can come in, and if I'm with the right people, and if the DM is doing their job, which I would say a DM's job is to make sure everyone is having fun.
Yeah, facilitation.
I don't think being a DM, I don't think DMing is about, being the storyteller. It is, but that's part of it. The main thing is making sure your people are having fun. But man, if you can find that and you feel, that these people are going to welcome you in and take you step by step, and it's just good vibes. Yeah, what more could you ask for?
Yeah, that's what it's about. Yeah. And I think to your DM point, I think the facilitation of fun is such a crucial aspect of it that, I've heard horror stories of DMs turning it DM against player, like the DM enticing players to essentially fight the DM and not even the plot that's been laid out in front of them, or DMs railroading the story because they know that it has to go that way and not allowing the freedom of the exploration for the players. And I think that's
let's explore that a little bit. How do you keep the campaign and your players from how do you keep it from turning into,
oh gosh, that's a question,
us versus God,
yeah.
Let's hear it, Corey, let's hear it.
Well, I think that's a good question. I think that you have to share the camaraderie with the story and the players. So I've made a big bad, let's just take, and I'll give a little preamble to this question, I guess, to our actual campaign. And I talked about it a little bit in the first episode, but just a little more in depth. So we're doing Ghosts of Saltmarsh. We essentially only did the first chapter from the book. I'll be honest, it was a little boring for my taste, a little political, not into it. Decided to call it Ghost of Saltmarsh, our campaign, but we're literally at this point, we're in session 3 and we are homebrewing everything from here on out. So everything from here on out, I've written, I've crafted, I've created, and
the way God intended.
The way Andrew learned. Yeah. And you know what? I think it's more fun for the DM if you're homebrewing. It's fun to use other people's stuff if it's exciting, but I read and read and read. They wanted to do pirate theme. I was like, oh, okay, I'll search around, I found Ghost of Saltmarsh. I was like, oh, this is pirate theme. I read into it. I was like, I couldn't even read it. I was bored, I'll be honest. So we are in Ghost of Saltmarsh currently, and it's very
some guy at Wizards of the Coast is just sobbing right now.
It's actually a really old one. It's a really old one.
I worked 6 months on that.
It took me so long. Sorry, man. Not my cup of tea. I needed a little more action. Little less talking, a lot more action. How do I keep the story flowing with characters? I found that if you present positivity in all the encounters, and I'm not just talking I'm an NPC, I'm really cool, hang out with me positivity, more just you have a positive encounter with the quest giver, you have a positive goal to move forward to, there's something exciting on the other end of that quest, you'll go your own way. And I know DMs aren't supposed to do this, but Josh, you almost scared me last session because you were given a vision to a lighthouse, if you remember that, right? Yeah. And I know I'm not supposed to do this. It doesn't matter. We're all friends here. It's not going to ruin anything for the story. You were given a vision to go to the lighthouse, but you needed to go to the island with the lizard folk. And you guys considered going to the lighthouse instead of the island.
Yeah, I was going to push it.
I had the entire session set up for the island. I had nothing prepared for the lighthouse, but I was going to roll with it. I was going to let you guys go because that's how it has to be, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And I think that's it right there. It's just that's when I have to put my improv hat on. I have to be okay, I'm going to suck it up. They chose this. It's their game. At the end of the day, if I'm not doing it right, then I'm going to constantly push you in a direction you don't want to go,
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think that's the key is just flexibility, and I learned a valuable lesson there. It's Corey, you need to flesh your story out a little bit further, And then I also think that it is, that improv is crucial, but also you have to have a plan, So if you guys did choose to go that way, I can pull out some NPCs, I can pull out some enemies. We can make this exciting and fun and still tie into the story. without you feeling railroaded or like I was like, nope, you guys better go to that island, you know?
Yeah. Well, and I'll say like something I've seen you do that kind of makes it feel like we're playing the story with you is your NPCs.
Big
Like,
on
the
NPCs.
NPCs that I feel like that you've put in our campaign, like you play them like you would play a character, and some of those NPCs like I love, and I think they're awesome.
Yeah, and
And
I hope that you adore them so
they
much.
feel like they're almost a part of our group.
Yeah, that if something were to happen to them, it would be devastating, you know. And I think that that's an important and a little DM tip here. I need to put like a little DM tip whenever I say something like this. For me personally, I think it's fun to craft, and I have character sheets for the NPCs, like detailed character sheets, and they level up with you guys. I don't even know if you knew that. They level up with you guys. Yeah. And so I get to almost play D&D vicariously through the NPCs, and I'm not stuck necessarily in the D&D chair, or the DM chair, So like,
man, the DMs wanting to play, but also wanting to DM.
Yeah, and I think you can kind of. I mean, it's not you know all the outcomes, so nothing's really mysterious to you. But you get to do that like dialogue and silliness and like role play and be funny. And I mean, combat's cool because I can take an NPC and use their actual attacks and stuff. So no, I think that that's a little way that I keep sane in the DM realm too, is like NPCs. I'm huge on NPCs. I mean, what's a story without other characters? If you're just constantly running into shopkeepers that are like, I will sell you a potion for 20 gold. It's like, okay, cool. But you're sitting here trying to save Periwinkle the halfling and his arms being taken over by some, it's the pressure to save something.
Yeah. It makes the story feel alive. It makes the world feel like it's like an actual world that we're running around in. Like the story's fleshed out. I mean, yeah, it definitely adds so much.
So, not getting too far into the DM stuff, let's stick with the player stuff for a few more minutes. For both of you, what makes a game session fun for you? Is it the story, friends, chaos, snacks? I know playing virtually, you have to craft your own snacks. We don't all share snacks at a table, unfortunately.
I think a great gauge of a good session is how much you've laughed. I think that's the perfect gauge.
Yeah.
How much have you laughed? And then how much have you just at moment, because Corey, I've done this with you recently, man. The music will be going, the ambiance is set, there's dark whispers in my ear in the dark caverns of Fandel, and I'm here and I'm hearing you monologue, and man, it's like the opening of Lord of the Rings. And and I catch myself in moments where I'm in it. I forget for a second that I'm not listening to an audiobook, or that I'm not, for a second I forget I'm in the real world.
Yeah.
Right. And this is real.
That's
cool a great session. That's a great session for me.
Yeah. That one with you meeting the god Mask was one for the books, I think. That was cool. That was epic. Shout out to Fantasy Plus. If you guys need cool audio, Fantasy Plus is where it's at. And they're about to release, I think in like a week, their bot for Discord, so you can integrate it straight into Discord and have all your sounds there. So
wow,
we're big believers in Fantasy Plus. I think it's been game changing since we've implemented that.
They got the vibes.
The vibes are real. Yeah. I mean, even that battle at Dunewater, all the sword clinking behind us and the music playing, like, I mean, goosebumps, goosebumps, actual goosebumps.
So
yeah.
It was awesome.
So story would be your answer, maybe, Andrew, and obviously friends. And we all love chaos. We love all these things.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Man, it's about camaraderie.
Camaraderie. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good word. What makes it fun for you, Josh?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. When I was an early player, I used to be combat, and maybe that's what it is for a lot of people. Like, I want to just like fight stuff all the time.
Yeah.
I think now what makes it really fun for me, if there's a lot of role play, a lot of really good role play, and like, we're riffing off of each other and we're creating those funny moments, and it feels just really genuine and authentic to the character that everybody's created. And like Andrew was saying, we have a lot of really good laughs from that. That feels like a good session to me.
So you
Could
you go a full session without combat?
I could easily go a full session without any combat.
Do you feel
and
that?
Honestly, I was going to say that's kind of unique to our group. Like we don't get into combat a whole lot in situations where previously we would have definitely got into combat. Like this group, for whatever reason, we find our way around it. Like we either
Y'all are
negotiate
clever.
or we get into some conversation. Like that's what I love.
Well,
I
think for the new players, and I don't want to speak for Evan or Buddy, but I think that you and Andrew set the stage for them having kind of almost crested your like new player hill, into like seasoned veteran to some degree. Like you guys have come over that where it's like murder hobo. Oh, I can role play. Dialogue's actually really fun. Whoa, I like this aspect. And then you're like, oh my gosh, if I role play, I can actually do way more than just fight and stab people. I think you guys were already over that hump, so it showed Evan and Buddy that like, oh, maybe a dagger isn't the solution to this interaction with this barkeep. Maybe throwing this potion of dancing on him's more funny.
Well,
it's like,
I mean, we definitely had to have a moment with the old dagger situation and a certain bard named Yancey. That I remember Mert having a very stern conversation with one of our other players.
You did have it was a heartfelt moment. It was a heartfelt moment. For those of you who don't know, there was a bard that intruded on Andrew's bardness. And, two bards is too many for a tavern. So I'll leave it at that. Let's just
say... he shouldn't have been there. That's all I'm saying, bro. He shouldn't have been there. That's all I'm saying.
Let's just say that Yancey is no longer with us, and he may be in a plate of meatballs somewhere. So that's neither
6
here
feet
nor there.
deep where he's staying.
There's a nice stain in the tavern floor. Okay, maybe the final player question. We can keep chatting about it, whatever. We can do whatever we want. It's our podcast. If someone said, I could never play D&D, I'm too nervous, what would you tell them?
You know what? I'm making my point finally. After an hour, I finally arrived at my point.
Oh, we're here.
I think that new players can be intimidating coming into it because there's a lot. But when you understand, like I said, that it's just about being creative, and it's just about having fun, and it's really just an excuse to get together with your friends and then, not only catch up, but then almost have, like I was saying, have experiences with each other. And it does feel very real. Like you think about how many times we do this all the time with your campaign, Corey. How many times have we all been in the Discord being like, man, last week was nuts. Remember when blah, 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 blah happened? Remember when we cut Yancey's arm out? Like those are real things that we laugh about and that we have moments together where we're like, man, that was cool. And with the magic of technology, we've been able to do all this really cool stuff online, but back in the day, it was just like being at a table, and man, being at a table is so fun. But we've been able to recreate. I'll be honest, man, we've been able to recreate that same energy for sure. Because I agree,
and I think a couple factors in that. I think the three of us are really good friends, and then Evan and Buddy have become such good friends in that fold too through this.
Oh, we're not. No one, don't lie to these people, bro.
We don't like those guys at all. If you're listening, you're kicked out. We're looking for 2 new players. All right. No, Evan and Buddy are such a great addition, and they were two finds that, like, I mean, Buddy and I got coffee one day to talk about something completely separate from D&D, and I looked at him, and he was so creative in what he was already talking about. Like, it was kind of point you were making before. Like, you kind of get a sense like you would be a good player, and he was just talking over his coffee, and he's like, well, I want to do this, and very passionate about like he does filmmaking and stuff, and he was just very passionate about it, and I was like, dude, have you ever played D&D? Like, I kind of just derailed the conversation, and now he's been with us, and he's addicted. He's like, when's the next session? When's the next session? And then Evan, you
presented him with the pill, the red.
I gave him the pill. Yeah, it was Matrix. Yeah,
yeah. You get an eye for people, man. Like, and I knew that first session, I knew you would just
addicted.
Slide right in. But I knew, man, because and same with you, Corey. Like, I just knew I could see, the creativity the social aspect, right? I think that's a big part. That doesn't mean you have to be social to play D&D. I think it's great to have people who are a little less social. It balances everyone.
Yeah.
But I think you can just spot little things in people that you'd be like, man, you seem like you have a good imagination, and you seem like you get along with other adults.
You'd play an awesome character. Well, Josh, like you were trying to say, Evan was such a great addition too, and Evan, if you're listening, I mean no disrespect, but Evan's a little more quiet to some degree. But then when he's Avarama, he's just like another person.
Is he really? Bro, I've only ever known him on Discord. Is he? That's so funny.
I've only met him in person once, and I don't know him super personal, but I mean he's definitely the most low key of us all. That's what I'm trying to say. Like he's just like we all get in the Discord. He's like, he's like, what's up, fellas? Just like super chill all the time.
Yeah, he's the chill one. That's not hard with our group.
Little backstory. little backstory on Evan. Evan, I'm giving everybody our lore here. Evan was my across the street neighbor. And when I first met him, he was like outside doing yard work or whatever. And I was like, that's Keanu Reeves.
He does look like Keanu Reeves.
I am neighbor.
Just like him.
And he had longer hair than me, I think, at that time.
What? Like, he looks like Keanu Reeves? This is crazy.
I was like, this guy's Keanu
I'm learning so much.
And the first time we hung out, like we just immediately clicked. And, he was into fantasy and sci-fi and like all the stuff that I was into. And we've stayed friends years later, and now we've moved across town. They also moved across town. They live like 4 minutes from us. It's really poetic how we've kind of all ended up back close together again. And knowing Evan, from all that time, I just knew that he was going to be a great D&D player. Like I knew his creativity, and he was more exposed to it than I was when I first started playing. So he had kind of really already understood the game. He'd listened to podcasts like Critical Role, and so he had a lot more exposure to it than me.
Well, he had played Baldur's Gate too. I remember him coming in and being like, I just beat Baldur's Gate. I was like, okay, well then you have a pretty good concept.
You're going to have a pretty good understanding
of at least combat,
D&D is like. Yeah. And so but like you guys are saying, you can just tell if somebody's kind of got that little creative spark, and they're going to be able to riff off all the other players. And Evan had that for sure. And I feel like I'd known that for a while. I was just kind of waiting for a party to like put him into.
Yeah, and we had been in such a drought before this group. Yes. Yeah, and I'm so glad we found the group because this is the most committed group we've ever had. And especially to have two new players. I mean, we've played where, people have dropped out before because it just wasn't for them, which is totally cool. But it's like I think to share, because I know you two are just givens. Like, if you have the time, you're going to make it. You love D&D as much as I do.
You tell me when.
Yeah, you're going to show up.
I'm there.
But then to incorporate two new people and kind of like hope that they vibe with the three of us at least, because we've been playing together for so long. It's like, it's second nature at this point. Not just D&D, but like video games. Like, we've been doing life in that regard together for so long. We get into a survival crafting game. I'm cooking, you're hunting and mining. It's like we know all the rules that we fall into. And then to pull two new people in it can be intimidating to some degree to be like, are they going to even enjoy it? Is this something, have I made a mistake inviting this person to spend 5 hours of their life with us on a Friday night? But for them to like commit the way that they have and to be so gung ho, like, I mean, literally the session ends and Buddy's like, all right, get up our calendars. I don't even have to organize any. Buddy's like, we're putting the next date on. Yep. I think that it's been, and I feel like we're just kind of bragging about how good our group is now. Like, you guys with bad groups.
Yeah, sucks to suck.
We don't even have scheduling problems. It's like no. I think
number one D&D killer, man. Schedules.
Yeah, but I think that we've just been so fortunate in that, and I do feel for people that can't find a good group.
And I don't think I ever answered your earlier question on like, what would you say to that person who's like, oh, I'm not good at it. Like,
we definitely got off on a tangent.
Yeah. I mean, you just be you. Like, you are already like a character in this world.
Yeah.
Like, and if you just show up as yourself, I feel like that's enough. And I think because people get intimidated, it's like, oh, I can't do accents, or I'm not
Don't.
like, they think
Don't
they
do
have
it.
to be an actor or something like that. Like Buddy doesn't do an accent.
No.
Like, he literally just shows up and talks exactly like he would talk to you and I right now.
Yep.
And
Yep.
it somehow
He is
like,
Malachi.
He's
it's
Malachi, yeah.
yeah, and like it is that character. And so I think I think people need to realize that you can bring just yourself to a character, and people will love it, and they'll have fun as long as you're having fun. Like, it's going to be a good time.
I think, and that's so great for new players, I think, to hear is I think you could literally show up to a table, digital, real life, whatever. You can show up to a table, and if you're so nervous about playing, or if, what are the other players going to think about me? Is the DM going to be chill? Like, what if my player's not cool enough? Like, if you show up and are just like, I'm a human rogue, done, and my name is blank blank, get on fantasy name generator, make you a fake name, use your real name. You could literally be you in that padded armor of a rogue, It's like, that's all you have to do. And then from there, you'll start to develop things that you might enjoy. Maybe you do want to give them an accent, It doesn't have to be the first few sessions. Maybe that accent develops later on. People would be like, hell yeah, like, that's okay, cool, Where'd the accent come from? I've always been this way. You guys just weren't listening, It's like,
Magic.
I think that's great advice for new players. That's good.
Yeah, be yourself, man.
Yeah. Don't be anybody else.
Yourself.
Be yourself. Everybody else is taken.
Yeah. D&D's for everybody.
D&D's for everybody. Hey. D&D's for everybody.
Yeah. Don't let anyone. Hey, listen.
I don't know if.
Hey, I'm talking to you right now. I'm talking to you right now.
Listen to us. You right now. New player, new DM.
Don't let anyone tell you it's not for you, because it is. So if you're new, nervous, or just trying to get back into the game, remember D&D is supposed to be messy, weird, and fun. Let us know the dumbest or most unexpected thing you've done in a session. We'll read our favorites next week. And if you're having fun, you're doing it right.
Doing it right.
We would love for you to follow the show, leave a review, and tag us on Instagram with your chaotic D&D moments, because we love you guys, and it's been fun talking. So
We want to hear them.
stay armed and stay dangerous.